down the road. We have a question, a live question from Simon. Simon, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question of Samantha.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Administrator Power. I want to thank both of you for having been amazing human rights champions through the decades, an inspiration for so many of us. I want to go back to the question of geopoliticizing humanitarianism and maybe push back a little bit on the assertion that geopolitics does not play a role in this. But I do want to thank for all of the work that U.S. aid has been doing for the Ukrainian people. I was a speaker, like the administrator at the Earth Summit a few weeks ago. At one of the tracks, I was talking about the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh, and there were also Hazaras in the audience, and they seemed incredibly frustrated that they used to be so important for U.S. efforts, and now after U.S. has changed its geopolitics in Afghanistan, that they're no longer on the radar. So as you both know, today is day 66 of Azerbaijan's ongoing blockade of Nagorno-Karabakh. As far as I know, U.S. aid has not done anything to support the people of Karabakh. And so I just wanted to push back on the notion that this is not about geopolitics and there's no place that USAID is not working. And so I guess the question would be is, what do you tell people like, the Hazaras in Afghanistan and Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh who feel like, their lives don't matter as much?
And if I can just sort of explain the geography of this, there is an enclave populated by Armenians called Nagorno-Karabakh that has a road in and out of it that Azerbaijan has blocked, which is what Simon is raising. Samantha.
Thank you so much, Simon. As you know, as I think you know, one of the things that USAID has done in Afghanistan, in light of the decision to end the, 2-decade-long war there, is to continue to try to scramble to find ways to support Afghan women and girls, for sure. But as the largest humanitarian donor also, and with a government that is indifferent, clearly in so many ways, to the welfare of its people, to try to ensure that there is not mass famine even in Afghanistan. In addition, of course, after a very, very difficult collapse of Kabul and evacuation efforts, I do want to note just how many tens of thousands of Afghans now live in the United States, and also the importance of continuing to look out for their loved ones, some of whom are still in Afghanistan and want to come here, and continuing, to ensure that process continues so that those who need refuge and have a well-founded fear of persecution, which is true of so many, that they can find a home in the United States in light of, again, those years of commitment. So I wouldn't characterize that as a geopolitical shift. I would characterize that as a set of circumstances brought about by, gross Taliban repression. And sadly, a battlefield victory, notwithstanding 20 years of investment by the United States in Afghan forces, but with devastating human consequences for the people of Afghanistan, for sure. With regard to the Lachin corridor and the people who are living in an area that has been blockaded, as you note, for more than 60 days, obstructing commercial and private travel is causing shortages of food and fuel and medical supplies. And we are, in fact, this is something that I work on every day to monitor the extent to which this is becoming a humanitarian crisis. And I absolutely agree with you. The medical evacuations, which have been too challenging, have been just by blockading the road in both directions, it has become really, really difficult for the people living in that area. I think what you're doing, though, is conflating the diplomatic and the humanitarian. I mean, fundamentally, those who are blocking the corridor have to restore free movement through the corridor, and that has to include commercial and private travel. The issue is the need, for responsibility to be taken, again, to open up the road so that goods can pass. I've been in very close touch with the Armenian foreign minister on this matter. I know it's something Secretary Blinken as well, who's en route to Europe, is going to be taking up again. So we need for the obstruction to cease and for humanitarian and commercial traffic to flow. And USAID absolutely, is always a part of the humanitarian solution. But right now the issue is Azerbaijan or those people who are protesting and obstructing passage, not allowing those goods to flow. And so that we are doing everything we can through diplomatic channels to press for resolution. But that is not, again, about geopolitics. Our support for the Armenian people and for people who've been displaced in the conflict goes back many, many years. This is about fundamentally needing that blockade to be lifted.
We're running out of time, but let me